supposed to be just an ordinary birthday. But when Oliver unwrapped his gift, the toy that lay inside would change his life forever. They thought it was just a doll, a simple toy to keep him entertained. Little did they know, it would soon develop a voice of its own. Oliver was a quiet, thoughtful boy with a love for books, puzzles, and long walks in the garden. When his grandmother gave him a toy for his 8th birthday, it was the last thing he expected to receive. It was a wooden, jointed puppet doll with painted eyes that seemed a little too real and a thin, crooked smile. It was a strange choice, and Oliver's mother had eyed the doll warily, almost pulling it from his grasp. But his grandmother had insisted, her face unreadable, as if there was something more to the gift than met the eye. The first night, Oliver left the doll on his dresser. He woke up around midnight to the sound of faint whispering. He looked around, groggy, thinking it might be the wind or a creak from the old house. But there, in the darkness, he could make out 2 glints reflecting from his dresser, the doll's eyes, somehow shimmering in the dim moonlight. As the days passed, the whispers grew louder. At first, Oliver brushed it off, thinking he was just tired, or maybe even imagining things. But one night, while lying in bed, he distinctly heard a raspy, childlike voice murmur, "Oliver, I can see you." He froze. His eyes darted to the dresser, but the doll sat just as he'd left it, arms askew, head tilted. Yet the voice continued, this time with a slow, unnerving giggle. His heart raced. Every instinct screamed at him to throw the doll away, but something deep inside held him back, as if he was already tied to the toy by an invisible thread. Oliver tried to tell his parents, but they brushed it off, attributing it to his active imagination. He was alone with this thing. As the days stretched on, the doll's whispers grew more frequent, more demanding. It would start saying things Oliver didn't understand, cryptic warnings about secrets hidden in the house and voices that waited in the walls. One night it simply said, "Look beneath the floorboard by the bed." When he gathered enough courage, he checked. With shaky hands, he lifted the loose floorboard and found an old, faded photo of his grandmother as a young girl with the very same doll tucked under her arm. Chills ran down his spine as he held the photo, trying to process the impossible. Was the doll alive? From then on, Oliver felt like he was constantly being watched. The doll's voice followed him, growing more demanding and eerie, saying things like, "We belong together and you can't leave me." It would speak in his grandmother's voice sometimes, sweet and coaxing, while at other times it was sinister and cold. He would hide the doll in drawers, lock it in closets, and even bury it in the garden one night. But every morning it was back on his dresser, its gaze fixed on him. One night, when he couldn't take it anymore, he stormed into his grandmother's room, clutching the doll and demanding answers. She looked at him, her face pale, her eyes distant, and finally told him the truth. The doll. It's been in our family for generations. Every child who owns it is chosen. You must listen to what it says, Oliver. There's no escaping it. She reached out to touch his face, but her hand was cold, and her gaze seemed vacant, as if she'd already resigned to some dark fate. Things took a turn for the worse after that. The doll's whispers became commands, urging Oliver to perform strange tasks, like placing a candle in the hallway at midnight or drawing symbols on his wall. It would laugh when he complied and scream when he disobeyed, an ear-piercing sound that filled his head with dread. He began to lose sleep, his eyes constantly darting around the room, fearful of the next command, the next chilling whisper. As weeks went on, Oliver's appearance became haunted, dark circles under his eyes, his face pale. His parents worried, but they couldn't understand. His grandmother, too, became more distant, her health deteriorating, as if the doll was draining the life out of her. Then one evening, Oliver returned home to find his grandmother gone and the doll sitting in her chair, its painted smile stretched wider than ever before. The doll spoke in his grandmother's voice one last time. "Now it's just us, Oliver. You're mine now." The room grew darker, colder, the shadows seeming to creep closer. He ran, but every room he entered was filled with whispers and laughter. Every corner held glimpses of the doll, watching him with those eerie eyes. His last shred of hope slipped away as he realized there was no escape. The doll was everywhere, its presence an inescapable horror. And from that day forward, Oliver was never seen again. Some say he's still in the house, his spirit bound to the doll, just like all the others before him. The whispers continue, waiting, seeking out the next child, the next soul to claim. If you dare, venture into the darkness and discover the secrets of the toy that talks back. And if you're brave enough to listen, maybe you'll find the voice that still calls out, waiting for its next victim. Like, share, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales that might just follow you home.